Welcome to Part of the Solution, because what the world really needed was another podcast, except for this one actually cuts through the noise. Hi, I'm Natalie, your coach, speaker, truth teller, and your favorite no BS friend. Around here, we're talking health, healing, habits, hormones, and how to finally grow a mindset that gets out of your own way. There's no filters, just real conversations that might actually change your life. Welcome back to Part of the Solution podcast. Today in the studio, I have Alexis with me. And this woman I randomly found online, essentially. She runs a amazing business called We Are The Breadwinners. And just by the title alone, I was like, I need to meet this woman. Who is she? So welcome to the show. And for people who don't know who you are, tell them why they should know you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation. My name's Alexis Contos. I am the founder of The Breadwinners. It's a platform for working moms to redefine what it means to be a breadwinner in today's society and culture. That's the short version. The long version is I'm a mom of four. I have a stepson who's in college, and then I have littles who are 5, 4, and 2. And I've had a corporate career for 20 plus years, and I feel like we as working moms are in this season of life that ebbs and flows with different things that come in and out of who you are as a person, and not just who you are as a working woman, and not just who you are as a mother. And the conversation didn't exist where we were able to celebrate the fact that we choose to be working women and that we choose to be mothers, and what that looks like and how we manifest that into our daily lives. And so the platform is a dinner series that travels around the country to create more intimate programming in real life for working moms. And some of them are the literal breadwinners of their family financially. Others are not. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then I also launched a podcast about 2 months ago where we do weekly episodes talking about all sorts of things, but mostly talking about the hard stuff. So I like to bring on experts who can help us better understand ourselves and the world around us, and all the things that are a little bit taboo that people don't like to talk about. So it's always fun to see what people's reactions are.
And that is a conversation that definitely needs to happen. Nobody wants to, we all want to do personal development, but as soon as the hard stuff starts boiling up, you're like, yeah, I'm good, and
Yeah.
so I think that's great.
And for different reasons too. I haven't recorded this episode yet, but I'm really excited to bring on a top negotiator, because that's actually come up a lot in the conversations of us as people, just humans, and especially us as women. Like, negotiating for yourself is a very hard thing to do. Like, actually defining your self-worth is not discussed. You go through your life and you go through schooling, and like, you aren't taught the art of negotiation. And then you walk into your career thinking, how should I be doing these things? And you kind of learn from the people around you. Maybe those aren't the people you should be learning from. And maybe sometimes you're fortunate enough to learn from the people that you should learn from. But the art of negotiation is a really interesting one that, maybe it's not something that people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, but they just don't know what the tools are that they should be using to really define their self-worth. So I'm excited for that conversation.
I am too, because I think in all relationships that we have, you do have to negotiate. And I think a lot of us just wing it, or we don't, or we try to
Right.
people please, or we get stuck in some cycle of being codependent or not being asserting yourself, and what your desires and what
Yeah.
your needs are. Negotiation, I would never use that word for it, but that's truly exactly what it is.
Yeah. And where does it all stem from? Yeah, it's also interesting. A second episode that I had my friend Eileen on, who's a former ICU nurse who quit her job during the pandemic because nursing was difficult
Yes.
I don't understand how nurses did it, but she chased her dream of being an artist, and she's now a world-renowned artist who's commissioned by some large companies and does beautiful, beautiful work. But we talked a little bit about her as an artist, but what we actually talked about was listening to your inner self and like the healing that you need to go through to heal your own reflection of you as a child before you can be a mother. Like we had a whole conversation around what that means, and she's just an incredibly thoughtful person who just has like wise words beyond wise words. And so having conversations like that are also really important, which is like, how do you define trauma? Like, what does trauma look like for you? And how does that manifest? And how do you try and heal from that as you are trying to take care of others in your family? So, you
Absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
the topics are endless.
Oh, they are endless, but I think that that's exactly who you're speaking to, and that's exactly to who I am speaking to, is that working midlife mom,
Hmm.
wife,
Yeah.
entrepreneur. I call myself a domesticated engineer, like I'm just we're trying to wing it and do all of the things, and we want to put our best foot forward. And I think podcasting, not only hosting, but listening is a really powerful tool that I wish everybody took in because it is free for the
Yeah.
listeners, not for the host.
Right.
Free education on just like trying, that 1% of being a little bit better each day. Or
Hmm.
for me, like I'm always curious and I always want to know. And so I think it's a great way to educate, have self reflection, to grow.
Hmm. Hmm. I
So
totally agree.
let's jump back. Tell me a little bit about your corporate life and how that changed.
Sure. I spent 20 years in brand marketing. So I actually started out in creative advertising. I worked at advertising agencies in Boston and San Francisco for a little over a decade. And that was really actually foundational to how I think about kind of business in general, which is the merging of creative solutions for business needs. And the where that started is kind of the old formation of advertising when you take creative strategy and bring that through to execution, which 20 years ago was like TV ads. Today it's very different with the digital world, but it still has like, it rings true to how I produce my podcast and how I think about branding and talking about trying to like relate to the audience. Is like, it's really customer first, is like, who are you trying to talk to? And then like, how can you create work that resonates with them and what you're trying to communicate? And then I moved to San Francisco in 2010, which was like the heyday of the tech era. And you live in the Bay Area, so you know. And I worked for a number of tech companies in marketing, everything from a payments platform that got acquired by PayPal to an e-commerce company that got acquired by Square. And so I was in the thick of tech world. So, a good part of what I enjoy talking about on the podcast is like your corporate life and like how that weaves into your personal life. Cause you don't, people talk about like you have your work life and you have your personal life. And to me, it's all intertwined. Like some of my very best friends are the people that I worked with. And there is no, I mean, everybody talks about this now, but like the whole balance is bullshit is true because like you have one life. And so I actually love to talk about my career because it's formed so much of who I am as a person and as a wife and as a mother. My husband also works in marketing, so like we actually enjoy talking about, because we have like a mutual understanding of what each other does and
Yeah.
things like that. And then I ran marketing for a few venture capital firms. One of them was global, so I kind of worked all over the world in like 5 different time zones. The company was SoftBank Vision Funds, and I was there during kind of the heyday of WeWork and all the big tech companies back in like 2018, 2019. And then I left my corporate job in January just to take a break. I had had 3 kids in a little over 3 years and gone through 5 years of IVF, and all the while just working through my corporate job aside from my maternity leaves. And I was just tired. I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. I'm in my mid 40s. And I was like, I just need a minute to take a break and like not think about what I'm going to do next. And I spent 6 weeks playing tennis and hanging out and like not having a care in the world. And then I landed on the Breadwinners serendipitously from hosting a dinner with a friend of mine here in Austin during South by Southwest. We just decided to like host a dinner for a bunch of badass working moms, and we called it the Breadwinners Dinner. And from that, the whole platform was born. And I just had no idea that that's where it was going to start.
Oh, that's so amazing. I love
Yeah.
when that happens like that,
Yeah.
and it just organically works out.
Yeah,
It's meant to be, and I'm sure that was like a gut hit for you.
it was. I mean, I stood up at so we there was 30 women at the dinner and we all went around the table and introduced ourselves and talked about a box we were trying to break out of as a working mom, and then we talked about a give and an ask that we want to give to the group and offer to the group. And I stood up at the table and said, I just left my 20-year corporate job and I don't know what I'm doing next. So my ask to the table is to please offer support as I'm trying to figure out this next chapter of my career.
Mhm.
Little did I know that literal dinner was going to be the support I needed, because I
Yeah.
just got phone calls from people after the dinner who were like, you have to build this into a platform. This has to exist beyond this dinner. And then I just jumped right into it. I just like started building a business plan, and like in May, just like started recording podcasts, which, it's just like, I don't know. I'm just going to sit down and have like, I know how to have a conversation. So I'm just going to sit down and have a conversation. And then it just kind of started to build from there. So it's been really fun. And people always say, like, you've found your thing when it doesn't feel like work. Now I know what they mean. Like, I stay up late at night working on things and it doesn't feel like work.
Well, and that's the entrepreneur mindset, I feel like going back to what you were saying about there's no such thing as the balance, like entrepreneurship, my brain rarely shuts off and stops generating and creating
Yeah.
ideas or what I should do or this or that. And I'm very much just starting this other season. I've closed my business and now I'm kind of you sitting at the table going, what the hell am I doing? Like, what should I do? And I already trust and know that something great is going to happen. Like, the next level will be even better. Like, I'll be able to help
Yeah.
in a different way. But what great clarity and support to have all of those women. I was poking around on your website and I just want to read something and I just want you to elaborate on it. So, your goal for that's on your website for what you want to create is to make every mom feel less guilty about whether they are raising their children right, spending time with them, nurturing their marriage, taking care of them, being healthy enough, or doing enough in your career. This is about wholeness, not balance, about power with softness, and ambition without apology. And that spoke to, I was like, yes, absolutely, yes. And so I would love for you, that's your mission statement, essentially.
Mhm.
Like, please elaborate on that a little bit more because I think that's going to speak to so many women who are listening, not
Yeah.
only on my podcast, but on your podcast of like, yes, that's what I want. And I want more of that. And how do I get that?
Yeah. It stemmed from all the things that I was going through and am going through. Like, just listening to you read that out loud, I got a little teary-eyed
Mhm.
because it's the shit we deal with every day. And the whole point of my friend Kim and I hosting that dinner, which we didn't realize, and why the platform now exists, is so you don't have to go it alone. Is replacing guilt with a sense of agency and confidence, so you don't have to go through the day with self-doubt. There's enough stuff thrown at you, all those things I just listed, that just compound self-doubt, self-doubt. Am I doing this right? I didn't spend enough time with my kids. They're growing up too fast. Like, it's just this world of I'm not doing anything right. And if I am successful in this platform, I want to talk about the hard things. I want to normalize things that are not normalized to make women feel more confident every day. Like, that's the goal. And that manifests in so many different ways. Like, the list of people that I have coming to the dinners and who come on the podcast is really broad and very versatile in terms of like their experiences and where they've been and their expertise and what they want to talk about. And that's the whole point, is like, this can go anywhere. I'm actually recording an episode on Friday with a guy named Nick who has a podcast called the Paternal Podcast. And he and I connected. And what was really interesting is I was like, I want to have the conversation around what modern fatherhood looks like. Because yes, it is great that we are all supporting each other as moms and working moms, but like, fathers are part of this conversation too. So a lot of what I like to talk about is what the modern working family looks like today, or just what the modern family looks like. Maybe it's not modern working, but just modern. And I'm really excited for that conversation because some of today's society and culture has turned into a zero sum game where we can lift women up, but we're tearing men down. And I have a really hard time with that. Maybe I'm just a really bad feminist, but like, I have a really hard time when women are being supported, but in ultimately men are being torn down because of it. Something that men did wrong. And my husband and I talk about it a lot. And so I want to have that conversation of like, yes, this is a group for working moms and this is a group for women, but we're going to have conversations around taboo things that women might not want to talk about. Like the mental load for women is talked about a lot. What about the mental load for dads? Like that exists, and not all marriages are created equal, but I would like to open up that conversation so men don't feel like they're alone as well. Like, let's bring them to the table and see what they have to say.
Absolutely. You should do an interview with your husband.
We're doing an episode in next
Are
month.
you?
I'm so excited.
Yeah. I was just thinking, God, I should bring Matt on the podcast, my husband,
How
and
great
talk
is
to him
that?
about all of that stuff.
I
And
know.
does he feel any way about anything? Or,
I
like,
know.
because men are just, I just feel like they go to work, they do their thing. There's not a lot of emotion involved, and it's Groundhog Day for them. Where
Hmm.
women, we are all in our feelings all of the time, and it cycles
Yeah.
throughout the month, and it's a lot. And yeah, I don't think that we stop and take a pause to think about or appreciate the men in our lives. Or when we're together in groups, we talk about our husbands and it's
Sure.
not always positive. So that's going to be a fascinating
Hmm.
episode.
Yeah, my husband, he heard it from another podcast, but it really resonated with him to the point where he played it for me to listen because it was a moment for him. There on this podcast, there was these two guys, an interviewer interviewing another guy, and somehow they got on the topic of how women define themselves is through love. Like they feel validation through love, and men feel validation through respect. And they went through this whole conversation. He actually gave this example of he was in the woods and there was like another guy who ended up helping him and like he just felt respected by that guy and he's like that was a moment where I felt validated. Like I felt like myself and I felt like I was being respected. And I actually have been sitting with that. This was like 2 weeks ago. I've been sitting with this for a while because I was like there's really something there. Like we need to feel loved. We talk about people's love languages and like all those things, but that doesn't translate necessarily to men. So that really is like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Like we just respond to things differently. We have different needs. And I think that's a really big conversation is like, what are their needs and how can we translate that over so women can be aware of that? Because we're very vocal about what our needs are sometimes and like the love that we need and like how love manifests, but like let's think about the respect that men need and like how can that show up in our day-to-day lives.
Well, yeah, and maybe that's going to be the next bigger topic to talk about.
Hmm.
Women were very wanty, and I think that that definitely could be a conversation that would be really interesting to have.
Hmm.
Yeah, like you said, we talk about how we feel, but how do men feel and what are their desires and their wants and how do they feel valued in the relationship? And all the focus is on us. Yes, you are totally
Yeah,
correct. Ooh, I can't wait for that one too.
I know. I
Yeah.
also said, when was the last time like a husband wife went on, like did an episode together? I was like, I'm trying to think of a podcast that I listened to. I said that to my husband this morning. I'm like, this is going to be really good because I don't know the last time like a husband wife did an interview together.
I know one that Chris and Lori Harder do, and they do He Said, She Said.
Oh, yeah.
And they co-host, and that's always good. And there's another husband and wife. It's a huge podcast. I'm blanking on the name right now, but that would be really interesting. That would
Yeah.
be a really good one to do. And it would probably be pretty funny, because you're very comfortable with that person. And
I
yeah,
hope so.
it would be a good
Yeah.
time for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
walk us through what coming to a dinner looks like and how do
Sure.
they start to finish? What does that look like? And what is your goal for them after they leave?
It's such a timely question, Natalie. I was just on the phone with a good friend of mine, Kate McAndrew, who's actually an advisor to the Breadwinner. She was at the very first dinner, and she's been instrumental in making sure the Breadwinners is a success. And we're planning the San Francisco dinner for next month. And she and I were just having this exact conversation where she was like, well, I have I'll take a step back and explain kind of the first dinner was serendipitous. So we didn't have any plans and we didn't really have any programming. We were just like, I don't know, let's get a bunch of women around a dinner table. And what came of it was the safe space that we created for these women to be vulnerable. But we didn't know that. That wasn't we're like, I want to make women cry at the dinner. Like we didn't have those expectations.
Yeah.
But that's almost the special sauce in it, is that we just created a safe space and then the guests allowed themselves to do that. The second dinner was a little bit different. So I hosted that in LA at the end of October. And I brought in a special guest, Eve Rodsky, who's written Fair Play and Unicorn Space. And Eve and I was more intentional around the programming of the dinner. By design, I really try and have the dinners hosted at somebody's home because it just feels more intimate, and it's 30 people max. I don't do more than 30 to 35 people because then it just starts to break down where you don't get the chance to talk to everybody and it just feels a little bit less intimate. But doing it at somebody's home, like at the one in LA, it was set up literally in somebody's backyard where people like took their shoes off and sat on the grass and like really just literally grounded themselves at the dinner. So the guests are all different walks of career. And, at the first dinner, we had founders who sold their company to Pepsi for $2 billion, literally the week after the dinner. Pediatric dietitians, female hormone specialists, women in venture, actresses, like all walks of how you define a working mom, right? And then the LA dinner was the same, where it was like mostly I think it's kind of interesting because as I'm going city to city, they actually manifest a little bit differently. Like Austin has a vibe, LA has a vibe, San Francisco has a vibe. So LA was a lot of female founders in like the consumer culture space, which was really interesting. Some of them knew each other, some of them didn't. I don't release the guest list before the dinner. And so it's actually I want women to show up because they want to be part of the experience. I don't want them to show up because of who's going to be there. And I think that's very important. But the programming I did for LA was a lot more curated. So even I hosted a session at the top of the dinner where we did an exercise around values that was pulled from her Unicorn Space book. So if you haven't read it, it's an incredible book that really talks about the creative space that you need to create for yourself. Her first book was Fair Play, which was around like sharing the mental load between you and your husband or your family or whatever. The second one was find the time for you to find your unicorn space, that thing that allows you to feel alive again. And for everyone, that's something different. And in order to find that, she has you go through this values exercise of like, you can't figure out your unicorn space until you understand your values. So we did that exercise. And then I asked guests to write a letter to their future self that they could read in 15, 20 years, or write a letter to their children that their children could read in 15 to 20 years. And the letter was supposed to be about this season of life that they're in today. Reflect on where you are as a human, as a mom, as a career woman, as a wife today, based on your values. Write that letter and then go put it away. Like, you don't need to read it to anyone, just like go put it away. And then throughout the dinner, I brought this incredible astrologer in who did a tarot card reading across the table. So like she kind of moved throughout the dinner. She put one tarot card underneath each plate. And then that really elevated the whole experience because people had just gone through their values. They've been reflecting on where they were. And then depending on like how woo-woo you are about astrology, I was floored at the readings that each person was getting and how it related to where they were. in this season of life, and people stayed late because they were just waiting to sit with Angie, who's the astrologer. Her name's Angie Benicki. You should follow her on Instagram. She's incredible and just like such a wonderful soul, but she's so talented because she really, I don't know, like she has a crystal ball. Like she can really look into things that you can't see yourself and help you understand those things and give you perspective. So that was the opposite of the first dinner because it was highly curated in terms of content. So this next dinner will be interesting because I don't know whether we need to curate the special guest and like run the programming again, or we just like let the guests run the programming themselves. So that's kind of the fun part, is like it's a little bit of a testing ground as I'm starting to host more of these dinners to see what really sticks for people.
I think that sounds incredible and like a dinner I need to be at for sure. Um, I think it's genius to go in when you have any retreat or any dinner or any round table or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that, to go in and crack these women open by making them be vulnerable
Mm.
and talking about, like I've done human design. So breaking down people's human designs and kind of learning who they
Yeah.
are. And then they look at somebody
Yeah.
else at the table and they're like, we're the same, like it's an instant way to bond.
Oh.
They essentially like trauma bond is the wrong way, but they bond together because
Mm-hmm.
they're like, and we all genuinely want to feel part of. And I think that's part of
Mm-hmm.
why it works probably so
Yeah.
effortlessly at these dinners, is because people belong and we want to belong and be part of. And so I think that is wonderful. And just listening to you talk about writing the letter to your future self
Yeah.
made me feel emotional. And like, what would I say about myself? Would I talk shit?
Yeah.
Would I say positive things? Would it be both? Would I be proud? Like all of those things. So I think that's really
Mm-hmm.
part of something special that women are craving, is
Yeah.
this deeper connection where you feel like we're the same. We have the same shit, the same insecurities, the same
Yeah.
high points, low points, and it's respected.
It is. The first dinner was a lot of that, where, of an incredibly influential, well respected woman stood up at the table and was like, I'm here tonight because I don't have any friends and I would like more friends. And everyone was like record stop. They were like, wait, what?
Mhm.
Like, you don't have any friends? And then another woman who's a former supermodel, now founder, literally walked the runways of Milan for Gucci and all the top high-end fashion lines. Was like, Alexis, I was so nervous to get up and talk. I was sweating. I had to take my heels off. Like, I was so nervous. And I was like, wow, like really creating these safe
Yeah.
spaces. So it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be nervous because that's where the best things come out. And you have to remove yourself from the day to day in order to allow those things to happen. And I mean, this kind of goes without saying for me, but I think it's important, is like these dinners in the community, they are not networking events and they are not dinners for working moms. It is a community space for you as a human being, period. Like, where I'm not trying to craft this, like, oh, we're like a community. I know I
Yeah.
say like we're a
Yeah.
community for working moms, but it's really about you as a human being, and like putting you in a space where you feel a sense of
Yeah.
agency with women who are like you.
Well, and I think putting it in perspective of what you assume everything about other people's lives or
Mm-hmm.
what they've got going on. For instance, the woman who was like, I don't have friends, like we just,
Yeah.
it puts your shit in a perspective in a way. Or like this woman who was very comfortable walking the runway, but was
Yeah.
scared to death
Yeah.
to be vulnerable in front of her peers. And I
Mm-hmm.
think women, we do that to ourselves, like
Mm-hmm.
we're judging women judging us before they're even judging us about everything because we're judging it. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
we are our worst critic. I am my worst critic. Like we were talking about earlier before we hit record, like when you're learning to
Yeah.
podcast and you say or you say whatever, a bunch and you're like cringing, it's part of how we roll. But what a great foundation for these women. Like what a great thing that you offer and give to these women by having them come here and just gently
Hmm.
pushing them outside of their comfort zone, because that's where healing
Yeah.
happens. That's where discomfort is where change happens. And that's incredible.
In some ways, it's like that sense of community is allowing you to reflect on yourself. Nobody wants to do the hard work of looking at yourself, but if you can do it in a group of other people, it allows you to feel comfortable holding up the mirror when you're by yourself. Hopefully, like, hopefully,
Mhm.
the impact of the dinners carries on beyond the dinner, where women can feel like it's okay to self reflect and create the space to self reflect, but you have to create kind of that ignition, like you have to ignite that fire to allow that to happen. And like that's the really hard thing. Like no one wants to do the hard work.
Yeah, and then hopefully it'll just become a habit, like once you start on that personal development journey, or wanting to better
Mhm.
yourself or change a behavior about yourself, eventually with practice, just like anything else,
Yeah.
just like meditation, like gym, like tennis, anything, podcasting, once you do it over and over and over with that repetition, you're
Yeah.
going to get better at it and then feel more confident about it. So I think that is a wonderful thing. I think you're going to change lives with these dinners.
Thanks. I hope so. I hope it's just to like remove the stagnation, like we go through so many different seasons as women and mothers, and we continually evolve, like as our children's grow, as our children grow, we grow. But there is like I have 3 little kids, and like life can feel stagnant sometimes. Like life's busy, but you as an individual, like I can feel stagnant sometimes. And so you need groups like this or conversations like we're having right now to like, I know when I hang up this interview, I'm going to be like, this was the highlight of my week, because it doesn't matter whether you're in California and I'm in Texas. Like we had a meaningful conversation. You have to create space to have those conversations.
Absolutely. And already
Yeah.
in my entrepreneur mind, I'm like, "Ooh, I think she should talk to this person and I want to do it," like it's already starting to bubble up, because that is probably who
Hmm.
you are and that's who I am. I want to help others. I want to be like the Rolodex for somebody to have
Yeah.
another relationship with somebody else, or learn from this person or that person, because I'm hungry for more and you're hungry for more. And I want to attract women who are the same.
Yeah, I agree. The thing that fills my cup and always has my entire life is connections, is like making connections with other people. And I know not everybody's like that, but that fills my cup, is like truly like intentional. I had this conversation on one of my episodes, is like it's not about networking. I think networking is the product of finding connections. Is like true meaningful connections with people is like why I am on this planet. Like it is
Mhm.
a very, very special thing that I feel fortunate to have. And if that goes away, like then like my existence goes away.
Yeah, we're all fucked at that
Yeah,
point.
we're all fucked. That's why COVID was so hard for so many people.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, and I think that's the beautiful side of the internet, is being able to make those connections. Like I have friendships online, true, genuine friendships online that I value just as much as the friendships I have. I still live in the same town that I grew up in. So I have my solid friend, a couple solid friends from high school and all of that. And I value the relationships are completely different because the conversations are completely different, but the connection, and that's what I love about podcasting and the internet and social media, is laughing at animal videos and making like these great connections with
Yeah.
other women. Like, for instance, having this connection with you, and then the ripple effect from that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna suck all of that in, and I think it's a wonderful place to be.
I agree.
Um, I had one other question for you in regards to starting this. How or has it changed you in your role as a mother? Like, has this enhanced like a flower blooming, or how has that made you think about your mom role?
Yeah. It's evolved. It's been like 10 months that I've been working on this, and my daughter's 5 and she's incredibly observant, and so she's just been watching me build this, because I work from home and she listens to everything. And so it's actually opened up a lot of really interesting conversations with her. Like at one point this summer, she asked me what a breadwinner is because she heard me and my husband talking about it. And she was like, "Mommy, what's a breadwinner?" I was like, I like sat there for a minute because I didn't want to give her the old, outdated version, which is why the platform exists. There's an old, outdated version of the term, and we're here to redefine what it means. And so I told her what I thought the new definition was, which is a breadwinner is somebody who brings important things into the home. They bring love, they bring joy, they bring humor, they bring finances, they bring money, but it goes far beyond money. And it was a really important conversation for me to have with her, not only for her to understand that, but for me to articulate that. It was a moment of like, oh, this is why I'm building this community. And the realization moment for me was having a conversation with my 5-year-old. And
Yeah. Well, it's a new standard. It's a
yeah.
new way of looking at things. It's a new mindset, and
Hmm.
that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been really nice. And then from a day to day perspective, I'm my own boss now. So I get to create my schedules, and it's for the good and the bad. Like I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose right now of all the things I should be doing, and like literally going onto QuickBooks and like doing my finances, like all of these things where I'm like, whoa, there's a lot happening here. But when my kids come home, I get to, for the most part, close my computer and say, okay, I'm spending time with you now because I get to set my schedule. And
Yeah.
that part's really nice. So I feel
Yeah.
fortunate. And it was really the whole point of me leaving my corporate job was like, I don't want to be beholden to somebody else's schedule right now. I'm not in that
Yeah.
season of life.
Flexibility is great. And I was chatting with another friend. She's a serial entrepreneur and does network and host events. And she was saying like, I'm pretty unemployable at this point in the game. Like nobody's going to hire me because we essentially do what we want.
Yeah,
It's amazing. Although there were so many values and things I learned being an employee, for
sure.
sure. There was so much responsibility and growth being an employee from basically 17 on
Hmm.
until I was in my mid 30s. And there was so much foundational stuff that I learned and totally value
Yeah, I agree.
um, and hard work and follow through and showing up
Hmm.
and all of that. And so I'm forever grateful for that. But I absolutely love working for
Yeah,
myself.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And the people skills, like, I talk about it on this week's episode. Like, one of the greatest skills I took away was managing up and reading the room. And all of these things that I learned from some wonderful managers that I wouldn't, maybe I would have figured that out on my own, but to have people that I respected, admire, that I could look up to and watch how they did it, that goes unmatched. And like the corporate
Absolutely.
ecosystem really allows you to have the people that you admire and the people that you're like, well, I'm never doing that because they're a terrible manager. So like, let's make sure that
Yes.
we never turn into that.
Well, and good for you for picking up on all of those. Like, that's what I want. That's what I don't want. Like,
Yeah.
take what you want and leave the rest is like how I always go into a situation.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to suck in all of this. And yeah. So when I was younger, I was a dental assistant forever.
Mm.
And I think if I tried to explain that I learned so much from that job in regards to people and reading people and talking to people and
Hmm.
making them feel comfortable and confident when they were uncomfortable or in pain or pissed off because things are so expensive or
Yeah.
like it made me really good at people
Right.
learning body language and just their tone and all of that. I can just read people and that's invaluable, like that is something that will never go away, but something I'm so happy that I learned doing that career for so
Yeah.
long because I learned the art of people.
Especially when
And
someone's having dental work done and they can't talk and you're trying to have a conversation with them. Like, that's one of the
yeah,
most challenging situations.
yes, yeah, I can understand you when your mouth is open and you're trying to talk, for sure, for sure. But you get people at their most uncomfortable or agitated state. So you really learn how to deflect and bring people down and make them feel at ease. And I feel like that's one of my gifts
Yeah.
is doing that.
That's so
And so
interesting.
I,
I've never thought of that. I'm going to think
yeah.
about that the next time I'm in a dentist chair.
Yeah. Yes. Well, yeah, because nobody's like, I love being here. I mean, there was like a 1% of people who were like, whatever, this is what it is, blah, blah, blah. Most people are agitated because it's expensive and it
Yeah.
hurts and you're gonna get a shot and it's uncomfortable.
My
Like you were saying, talking about the uncomfortable stuff, like that is it.
Yeah. My sisters and I are the weird 1% that we love getting our teeth cleaned. Like I would go 4 times a year and get my teeth cleaned. I love it.
That's me. That's me. Yeah, that
So
is
maybe it's
me.
more than 1%.
I think it's still a small. I think people don't mind getting their teeth clean. It's doing
Oh,
anything
yeah.
else.
Yes. Okay. I would fully
That's the
agree
hard
with that.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it's like a deep cleaning or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think there's so much value in being an employee for a certain period of
Hmm.
time and being a business owner. Like it's just
Yeah.
oh, there's nothing better. It's hard and you have to hustle
Yes.
and your brain seldom really shuts off. Mine shuts off during exercise and kind of that's the only time where it's not like
I agree.
you
I
know,
agree.
and I get all of these downloads and I think about things. That is my goal
Yeah.
for this year to be more present and to try to slow things down and not future trip a little bit about what the next step is.
Have you thought about where, aside from working out, like where are the spaces that you can enable that type of slowing down?
That's what I'm in the process of
Hmm.
right now. So if you have any
I
suggestions,
mean,
I would love that. But no, and that's the whole goal for this year for me, closing my business and then
yeah.
taking the time to kind of re-educate myself and figure out what's next is to be more in the moment, find more times of clarity. I love a morning routine. I'm an early bird.
Hmm.
I want to watch the sunrise. I want to drink coffee. I want to meditate and then I want to exercise. So I give myself that first 2 hours to really do that.
Hmm.
And my goal is to do that more throughout the day. And then obviously, like you were saying, the kids will come home and then it's about being with them.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
So I have a 9-year-old daughter and I have a 14-year-old stepson.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, you have an almost teenager. Was he, is a 14-year-old a teenager?
A teenager, and he's the easy one for sure.
Mm.
It'll be a whole different story when my daughter's 14. Luke is pretty easygoing. I
Oh,
lucked out with him
that's
for
awesome.
sure.
I feel the same with my
Yeah.
stepson who's 18. Like, he's the
Yeah.
easy one out of all of them.
Yeah. And I love that my daughter is wild and she's all of the
Hmm.
things. She's me. She's
Same.
me
I know.
100%.
My daughter is me. My
Yeah.
mom was like, Alexis, you are just looking in a mirror. She's watching
Mhm.
it and just sitting back and saying, "Oh, well, what goes around comes around."
Oh, yes. I'm sure my dad is like, oh, girlfriend. Hold on. He told me we were talking not that long ago, and he said, "God, I like survived you in your teen years. Like I think you took a couple of years off my life, but I survived." I was like, "Oh God,
Oh, well, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like there are moments where I have to like walk away from my 5-year-old where I'm like, I just need a minute from you, but
yeah."
I wouldn't have it any other way because I know that
You got to put yourself on a timeout sometimes.
for sure it is really important that it goes back to the self-reflecting. Like I have,
Hmm.
Christmas break was a long break for everybody, I think. Like it's just too long. They finally just went back to school today. But it is you have to check yourself when you're not being fair to them, and it's not always about what they're doing to you. It's like be reflective of what you're also doing to them as a parent.
Hmm.
That's a very hard thing to stop and think about. Is like, how am
Yeah.
I parenting? How are my actions
Oh,
impacting them? Like nobody wants
yes.
to think about that.
Well, no, because nobody wants to be a bad parent, and we live in this world of over information.
Hmm.
And again, like things get portrayed online about like how amazing it is, and I'm just gonna churn butter and make sourdough, and everything's wonderful with my children. But also, like I just screamed at them before school,
Hmm. Hmm.
like there's a lot of, I have to check myself sometimes and be like, well, when is this
Yeah.
true? Is this me or is this them?
Yeah.
And self reflect, because I think we have a tendency to immediately, because they're young or
Hmm.
they're whatever, like, of course, I want my kids to be like mature adults at a 40-year-old mindset. And I have to remind myself,
Yeah.
like, they don't have that common sense yet.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have all of that yet.
Isn't it a wild stat that the frontal lobe isn't fully developed until 25?
25.
It's like,
I think it's earlier with women. Men are
oh,
25. I think women are like 21, 22. I could be wrong, but I feel like
oh,
I've heard that. But
interesting.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
It really is trying to put yourself in their perspective of like, what are they developmentally capable of?
Mhm.
What are they capable
I had
of?
a really I had a really great woman on the podcast, and she has a business called Mother Flipping Awesome.
What a great
And
name.
oh, she just broke so many things down. I'll connect you to. She would be
Yeah,
a great
I would love to talk to
conversation.
her.
She just broke everything down about the different stages of parenting, and through these ages they need you, through these ages they choose to have a relationship with you,
Yeah,
and like all of these different phases. And her big thing was how to make little decisions to make your bigger decisions more easy. And she
mm,
just had such a great way of breaking things down as moms or overwhelmed parents, or, whatever the case may be. And she just watered things down. And I definitely left that conversation feeling better about myself as a parent, because
yeah.
again, we're our worst critics.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made things feel a little bit easier. And
Yeah.
again, it's like that sense of community, that sense of wanting to be part of or
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be heard,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something we're missing in life. And so,
I agree.
anyways, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, Alexis. And please just let everybody know, go through your website and your social media again. So if
Sure.
people want to connect or join a dinner or just conversate with you, they can find you.
Awesome. Our website is thebreadwinners.co.co. And then all of our handles are at We Are The Breadwinners. So Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn is The Breadwinners. Those are kind of the main platforms we're on. But would love to hear from you. Would love to open up the conversation. I'm launching a newsletter on Substack in just a few weeks, and where we'll have lots of more content, kind of obviously including the podcast, but lots of other content, and hopefully some live Q&As with some of our guests from the podcast, so the community can really start to engage with one another.
Yeah, which would be great.
Yeah.
And then if they are interested in joining one of these dinners, I assume all of that is on the website as well.
Yes, you can send a request right now. Just because I'm managing all the dinners myself, they're invite only right now, and I'm trying to figure out how many dinners I can host this year. The goal is to open it up to the community, maybe this year or next year, where we will have brand ambassadors who can host
Gotcha.
these dinners anywhere they want. So I'm working on what that program would look like. If you are interested in being a brand ambassador, please send me a note. I'm starting to make a list of people who want to start hosting in their own cities. So that would be great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Alexis, I think you and your company are doing great things. Again, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
just appreciate this like raw, real conversation.
It needs to happen. Like we've
Yes,
just got to start
absolutely.
normalizing these things. So thanks
Yes,
for,
and I think it's trending in that way.
yeah,
At least I feel like in my life, I'm having more of these like fruitful, real conversations that go way beyond, hi, how are you? What sports are your kids in? Blah,
yeah,
blah, blah. Like
agreed.
nobody wants that. People
Yeah.
want to like speak from the heart to the heart.
Yeah. The last thing I will say is the real conversations are important, but the angle that I feel is the most important is that they're solutions based and that they are ultimately in a positive light. Because as you and I were talking about earlier, like there is a lot of negativity in social media, and it's just like really depressing. So while
Mhm.
we want to have the real conversations, everything that we talk about is always solutions based to like move things forward versus wallowing in our misery.
God, I knew I liked you. I love it. Yeah, let's not be victims. Like,
Yes,
this was not done to us, this was done for us. Now let's talk about how we can get better because of it.
that's
So,
exactly right. That's exactly right.
oh,
Yay.
good. I'm so glad. Thank you again for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun.